China has declared a war on the greenback. Beijing is striking deals, strengthening trade ties, and asking partners to switch to the yuan to settle their bills.
In recent years, there's been much speculation that the Chinese yuan could replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Some have argued that China's economic rise and the global dominance of the US dollar have made it inevitable that the yuan will eventually take over as the world's go-to currency for trade, investment and reserves. However, there are several reasons why this is unlikely to happen anytime soon. In this video, we'll explore these reasons in depth and explain why the yuan is not likely to replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Reason 1. China's financial markets are not open enough. One of the main reasons why the yuan is unlikely to replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency is that China's financial markets are not open enough. China's financial system is still largely state-controlled, with the government maintaining strict controls on the flow of capital in and out of the country. While China has made some efforts to liberalize its financial markets, such as launching the Shanghai-Hong Kong Stock Connect and the Bond Connect programs, these measures have only had limited success in attracting foreign investment. The lack of openness in China's financial markets also makes it difficult for the yuan to gain acceptance as a global currency. Investors, particularly those outside of China, may be hesitant to hold yuan-denominated assets because of concerns about the transparency and stability of the Chinese financial system. The lack of transparency in China's financial reporting and accounting practices can also make it difficult for investors to assess the true value of yuan-denominated assets. Furthermore, China's capital controls limit the ability of foreign investors to invest in Chinese assets. These controls include restrictions on the amount of money that can be transferred out of the country and limits on the types of investments that foreigners can make in Chinese markets. These restrictions make it harder for foreign investors to build diversified portfolios that include yuan-denominated assets, which is an essential requirement for any currency to become a global reserve currency. Until China's financial markets become more transparent, open and accessible to foreign investors, the yuan is unlikely to become a global reserve currency. While China has made some progress in liberalizing its financial system, it still has a long way to go before the yuan can compete with the US dollar as a trusted and a widely used global currency. Reason 2. The US dollar is still the most trusted currency. Another reason why the yuan is unlikely to replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency is that the US dollar is still the most trusted currency in the world. The US economy is the largest in the world, and it's had a long history of stability and resilience. The US government and the Federal Reserve have a track record of responding effectively to economic crises, and the US political system is seen as relatively stable and transparent. In contrast, China's economy is still heavily dependent on exports, which makes it more vulnerable to global economic shocks. China has made significant strides in diversifying its economy in recent years, but it still relies heavily on exports for growth. This means that any global economic slowdown or trade tensions could have a significant impact on China's economy and, by extension, on the value of the yuan. Another factor that makes the US dollar more trusted than the yuan is the relative transparency of the US government and financial system. While the US government is far from perfect, it is generally seen as more transparent and accountable than the Chinese government. Investors are more likely to have confidence in a currency that is backed by a government that is open and transparent about its policies and practices. Finally, the US dollar benefits from the network effect. The US dollar is widely used and accepted around the world, which makes it easier for investors and businesses to transact in US dollars. This, in turn, makes it more likely that the US dollar will continue to be used as a global reserve currency, as businesses and investors are more likely to hold US dollars if they know that it will be accepted widely in international transactions. Reason number 3. China's debt levels are high. China's high levels of debt have been a concern for economists and policymakers for years. While China's debt has helped to fuel the country's rapid economic growth, it's also created significant risks for the Chinese economy and the yuan. One of the biggest risks associated with China's high levels of debt is the potential for a financial crisis. If China's economy were to experience a significant downturn, or if the interest rates were to rise sharply, the country's debt burden could become unsustainable. This could lead to a financial crisis that could undermine confidence in the yuan as a reserve currency. Another risk associated with China's debt levels is the government's ability to respond to economic shocks. If China's economy were to experience a major downturn, the government would need to spend heavily to stimulate the economy. However, high debt levels could limit the government's ability to do so, which could make investors less confident in the yuan as a store of value. In addition to these risks, China's high debt levels could limit the country's ability to invest in critical infrastructure and social services. This could undermine the country's long-term economic prospects and make it more difficult for the yuan to become a global reserve currency. To be sure, China has taken steps in recent years to address its high levels of debt. The government has implemented a range of policies aimed at reducing financial risks and promoting more sustainable economic growth. However, it will take time for these policies to have a significant impact, and the risks associated with China's debt levels will likely persist for the foreseeable future. Reason number 4, the US has significant geopolitical power. The geopolitical power of the US is an important factor in its ability to maintain the dominance of the US dollar as the world reserve currency. The US has a strong military presence around the world, which gives it significant influence over global affairs. The US also has a stable political system and a highly developed financial system, which are key components of the global economy. In contrast, China is still a relatively new player in the global stage. While China has made significant strides in recent years, it lacks the same level of geopolitical power as the US. China has a powerful economy, but it's still heavily dependent on exports and is vulnerable to global economic shocks. China also faces political and social challenges that could limit its ability to project geopolitical power on the global stage. The US has used its geopolitical power to promote the use of the US dollar as the world reserve currency. For example, the US has used its influence over global financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund to ensure that the US dollar remains the dominant currency in the global financial system. The US has also used its military power to protect the global oil trade, which is denominated in US dollars, and to enforce economic sanctions against countries that challenge the dominance of the US dollar. China has attempted to challenge the dominance of the US dollar by promoting the use of the yuan in international trade and investment. China has established a number of international financial institutions, including the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and the New Development Bank, which are aimed at promoting the use of the yuan in international transactions. However, these institutions still lack the same level of influence and power as their US counterparts. Overall, the geopolitical power of the US is a significant obstacle to the yuan becoming the world's reserve currency. The US has a strong military, a stable political system, and a highly developed financial system, which give it significant influence over the global economy. While China has made significant progress in recent years, it still lacks the same level of geopolitical power as the US, which makes it harder for the yuan to challenge the dominance of the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Reason number 5, the role of the US dollar in international transactions. Another reason why the yuan is unlikely to replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency is the role of the US dollar in international transactions. The US dollar is widely used as a medium of exchange and international trade, which gives it a significant advantage over other currencies. For example, when countries import and export goods, they often use the US dollar to settle transactions even if they're not trading with the US. This is because the US dollar is widely accepted and easily convertible into other currencies, which makes it a convenient currency for international transactions. In addition, many countries hold US dollars as part of their foreign exchange reserves. This is because the US dollar is seen as a stable currency that is unlikely to lose value over time. This gives countries confidence in holding US dollars as a store of value, which further strengthens the role of the US dollar in the global economy. While China has made efforts to promote the use of the yuan in international transactions, it still lags behind the US dollar in this regard. For example, the yuan is not widely accepted as a medium of exchange in international trade, and many countries are still hesitant to hold yuan as part of their foreign exchange reserves. This limits the global use of the yuan and makes it less likely to replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Reason number 6, the importance of the US economy in global trade. Another factor that makes it unlikely for the yuan to replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency is the importance of the US economy in global trade. The US is the world's largest economy, and many countries depend on the US as a major trading partner. This means that the US dollar is an important currency in global trade, as many countries need to use it to settle transactions with the US. In contrast, China's economy is still heavily reliant on exports, and it does not play as large of a role in global trade as the US. This means that the yuan is less likely to be used as a currency in international trade, which further limits its potential to become the world's reserve currency. Reason number 7, the role of international institutions. Another factor that could limit the yuan's potential to become the world reserve currency is the role of international institutions. The International Monetary Fund plays a key role in the global financial system, and it's historically favored the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. For example, the IMF's special drawing rights, which are used as a reserve asset by countries around the world, are denominated in the US dollars. While the IMF has made efforts to increase the role of the yuan in the global financial system, it is still heavily weighted towards the US dollar. This means that the yuan faces an uphill battle in challenging the dominance of the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. In conclusion, while there has been much speculation that the yuan could replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, there are several reasons why this is unlikely to happen anytime soon. China's financial markets are not open enough, the US dollar is still the most trusted currency, China's debt levels are high, and the US has a significant geopolitical power. In addition to the role of the US dollar in international transactions, its importance of the US economy in global trade, and the role of international institutions all make it difficult for the yuan to become the world's reserve currency. While China has made significant progress in recent years, it still has a long way to go before the yuan can challenge the dominance of the US dollar in the global financial system. If you found this video informative, please like and share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking content. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you're interested in learning more about the global economics and finance, check out our other videos.